Good evening and welcome to the Town of Riverhead Planning Board. Today is Thursday, August 3rd, 2023. If we could stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. All right, this evening we have 4 public hearings, and we are on Zoom, correct? Yes. Okay, so we do have Zoom available if you're unable to be with us in person this evening. And our first public hearing is going to be Peconic Farms Major Subdivision with Greg Bergman.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair, members of the Planning Board. For the record, Greg Bergman with the Riverhead Planning Department. So this is a public hearing for a 6-lot major subdivision known as Peconic Farms. The property is located at 1161 Peconic Bay Boulevard in Jamesport. The proposed major subdivision would subdivide the existing 9.57 acre parcel, which is located in the Residence A40 zoning use district. It would create 6 lots ranging in size from 27,192 square feet to 35,958 square feet. There would be a 33-foot wide right-of-way with a 20-foot improved surface that terminates in a cul-de-sac, a drainage area. 2 of the lots in the subdivision would have direct access from Peconic Bay Boulevard, while the remaining 4 lots would have access from the private right-of-way. Incorporated into the subdivision is a 4.998 acre parcel open space area, as well as a 50-foot non-disturbance buffer on the backs of lots numbers 1 through 5. I did receive the affidavit of posting and mailings from the applicant. I will state at the outset of this public hearing, there was some initial confusion when the mailing went out for this subdivision that noticed the property owners within a 200-foot radius. That notice initially said 1161 Peconic Bay Boulevard, Laurel, which is a valid address in Laurel in the town of Southold. The applicant's attorney did subsequently mail out a correct notification. It specifically referenced the error. It is in accordance, the posting was done in accordance with town code. The mailings are actually not a specific requirement of the town code, but it's always been the process of this board to mail notice to property owners within 200 feet. However, due to the confusion, I will recommend that the board keep the public hearing open for written comment for 2 weeks, just to provide any members of the public with an opportunity to comment on the subdivision application if they choose. And I will also acknowledge receipt of comments that we received by written comment for this subdivision. We received an email from Elizabeth Nels. We received an email from Salvatore and Stella Cracciolo, and we received written comment in the form of an email from John C. Robinson. So I will incorporate them into the record and just let them be part of the written comment. At this point, I would open it up to the public to receive any comments from the public on the proposed subdivision.
Thank you, Greg.
I was on the board of the GMPOA when this initially started, and I've now become a point person on the...
Can you speak more clearly?
Is this better? Hello? Hello? Oh, there we go. Hi. Hi, my name's Heather Sperling. I live on Doug's Lane. I was a member of the GMPOA board when this initially came about, and I'm now considered, I guess what you'd say, is the point person on it. I'm here with also many other GMPOA board members. We have thoroughly gone through this. I've written, I think, some emails to you, and we still have 2 really large concerns that we just would like to be noted and addressed. One is the drainage and the flooding. With even just moderate precipitation, our area along Doug's, as well as on the other side of Doug's, floods very easily. And I know that there is talks about the SWIP, and there's talks about the DEC will be doing or will need permits for all of this. But ultimately, our concern is that anything built on this land will increase the risk and increase the damage done to our homes. And we have some pumps in our basements, we've taken additional measures, and I feel like any disruption will just cause a lot of concern, to say the least. So again, I know that this is the beginning of the process, but we will continue to, but if there's any way to find out more information. I know there's a recharge station being done. It still addresses some concern because you're going to have to raise it up about a foot under the surface level. Water is there. So if you're digging any sort of recharge station, there's already water a foot under. If you're building it up, the water's going to slope down and then possibly go into Doug's Lane's homes. So we would just like to know kind of how that will be handled going forward. The back of the property, which we understand is open space, and we're appreciative of that in that sense, that it's been done, because that area floods significantly. But how will it be maintained? Will there be an HOA? Because right now it's being overgrown. There are animals throughout there living, and that area also, the overgrowth comes onto Doug's Lane and comes onto our properties that we have to manage constantly. So those are our two areas of concern. I know that I have other neighbors who would like to also address some other concerns, but those two factors are kind of large, and I'd like them to at some point be addressed, or just to make sure that they're aware of and the board's aware of.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
Good evening. Thank you for this opportunity. Barbara Schmidt, also a resident of Doug's Lane. I just want to echo what Heather has already said and say that we have concerns not only about the drainage and the wildlife and management of those things, but about really the community and the evolution of adding more traffic, more people to this area. We also are concerned with how the property will be organized. We weren't very well informed about what's going to happen on the property. I just recently saw the plans this week. And if I understand it correctly, we're going to have power lines in front of our house, power lines behind our house for their property. I think these are things that we have to be considering. It not only affects the environment, but it affects the quality of life in the neighborhood. So I'd ask that you give very careful consideration as this plan moves forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jay Gladys. I also live on Doug's Lane. I actually own the two lots at 8 and 10 Doug's Lane, which are contiguous with the subject property for its entire width from the boat launch area to Doug's Lane. So my interest in some of the issues that are being discussed here is quite personal. First, there are 3 points I'd like to make very briefly. The first one is to echo what has been said about the drainage situation. I'm not sure how the proposed revised drainage management system is going to deal with the fact that after any type of substantial rain, behind the Sperling's house, we have ducks floating around in a pond. That is a situation that remains true for days at a time. The second issue is the proposed open space. We're very appreciative that the town board revised the original proposal to reduce the density of the proposed development. And all that I would say is that it is very important to the community that we not adopt a standard formula in terms of the proposed use of that space, but rather that we take some thought and be very clear about what can and cannot be done, and under what circumstances changes can be made to that use in the future. Finally, I'm also glad to see in the revised proposal that there is a homeowners association. I'm hopeful that that will be a robust organization that can be responsible for the conditions that the board has seen fit to impose on this development. Thank you.
Did you want to come up on this?
Good evening. My name is Garo Tekeon. I live at 1124 Peconic Bay Boulevard, and I too am well aware of the situation with when we have both storms as well as rains that we have were called once in 20 years, once in 50 years, that seem to occur every year. My question is, the homes that are being built, will they be having basements, or will they be taking that into account, and will they be raised so that they would be able to afford that additional occurrence? I am well aware that the way the homes have been laid out is very attractive, but I'm still concerned about the fact that I don't know how much water that sump will be able to hold, but we get flooding on Peconic Bay Boulevard across from Doug's Lane, and it is a great concern. Thank you.
Thank you. I think maybe Greg might be able to come up and answer a few questions on that.
For the drainage, I would have the project engineer.
Oh, okay. We'll let this lady speak first, and then that way we can tie it all together.
Hi, thank you for the opportunity. I'm Eileen Sperling. I live at the house on Doug's Lane. People have been talking about the flooding on the property. It's not only the property, it's also the backup into our homes. We have sump pumps, and we do get a good amount of water, could be over 60% of the basement, with not even a major storm, with some precipitation. We have a lot of pictures that I believe Heather has sent to Mr. Bergman over the years, showing it every time, what the property looks like. So we have questions about what happens to, if you're building cesspools for these homes, how does that change the groundwater? The groundwater elevation is high, that also contributes. What happens when you have high tides? So all of it comes together to flood the properties, flood into our homes, flood Peconic Bay Boulevard. We also have questions about, in the homeowners association, who will have overall responsibility of these homes in doing the catch basins? Is it a homeowner? Is this the developer? What happens to the runoff from the roads, from the roofs? So flooding and water is a major question for all of us, in this, because of the history of this property. So that's just something else that I wanted to add. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, hi, my name is John Newman. I live on Doug's Lane. I have two things I want to mention. People here talked about flooding. I don't know if you understand the extraordinary extent of the flooding. During Hurricane Sandy, there was 4 feet of brackish water on the lower half of the property in question. And where that water came from, I think it came in from the inlet in the back, the East Creek Marina inlet, and of course the rain. But that was a major problem, and I don't see that being addressed anywhere. And I know that section of the property, according to the site diagram, is not going to be built upon. And so my question is, what's going to be put there? Right now, there's wheatgrass or ryegrass growing there about 4 feet high. That's a breeding ground for all kinds of rodents. And then that charge basin that's supposed to be set up behind the upper portion of Doug's Lane, but behind the houses on the upper portion of Doug's Lane, is going to be prone to mosquito infestation, I guess, if there's any degree of water in there. So that's a concern I have. And how close is it going to be to the homes on the upper portion of Doug's Lane? So those are two things that I'm real concerned about. The other thing I want to mention, on a moderate rain level, the water table is at ground level back there. And you can't see that because of the ground cover that's on there right now. But it's a problem, and it needs to be seriously addressed as far as runoff is concerned. All right, so thank you.
Thank you. We do have someone on Zoom.
Connie, if you can hear us, if you could unmute yourself, you can talk.
Okay. Sir, if you'd like to come up now while we wait on the Zoom.
My name is Jim Keough. I live on Touch Lane. And my concern is the entrance and exits to that property that's being built. Is that going to be exited only to Peconic Bay Boulevard? Is it going to be exited onto Doug's Lane in any way? How is it going to enter and exit that
Peconic
property?
Bay Boulevard, sir.
What's that?
Peconic Bay Boulevard.
No property, all right. It's going to exit at Peconic Bay Boulevard.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
There'll be two residents right on Peconic Bay Boulevard, and then there'll be a common entryway to go into the other homes in the subdivision.
Okay. Thank you.
Anyone with Zoom?
I messaged her to let her know to, unmute herself.
Would anybody else like to come up on this? Give us 1 second. All right, why don't you come on up?
Maybe you could text her that it is going to remain open for written comment for 14 days. This way she gets an opportunity.
She had sent her comments through the chat, but I let her know that, she could speak through Zoom. I'm sorry, the person on Zoom did submit some questions via chat, but I wanted her to ask them through the Zoom. I'm sorry.
comments via chat. We're going to inform her to submit them in writing.
Go ahead.
Good evening, Martin Finnegan, 13250 Main Road, Mattatuck, for the applicant, Conic Farms. Just briefly, I
We
just,
can't hear you.
okay, my apologies. I just wanted to say that the applicant, we appreciate the comments made here this evening by the public. We would like the opportunity to address them, and we will address all of them in writing to the board over the next 2-week period while the record remains open.
Great,
Okay?
thank you.
Just a question for you. Hello, hello.
Mr. Finn?
Have you seen the engineers' comments?
Yes, I have seen them, as has Doug Adams, our project engineer. We've had extensive discussions directly with the town engineer and have worked with him to address those concerns. Okay? Any other questions?
Thank you. Heather, anything?
So the person commenting on Zoom said that her concerns were addressed by the people who have already spoken.
Perfect. All right, and there's no one else? All right.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Can't.
No.
I'm sorry?
we're-
Can't close it.
We're leaving it open.
Oh. Yeah, we're going to close it and keep it open for 10 days. Yeah. Make a motion to close the public hearing for Peconic Farms major subdivision, and will remain open for 14 days for written comment. So moved.
Second?
Vote, please. Bear?
Yes.
Nenaro?
Aye.
Hogan?
Aye.
Nocesky?
Aye.
Woski, yes. Okay. Next, we have Do Well Properties with Greg Berkman again.
Thank you. I'll give the give them a minute to clear out. All right, thank you. So this is a site plan hearing for Do Well Properties, which is a property located at 120 Edwards Avenue. Property is located within the Industrial A zoning use district. Subject property is 2.05 acres in size. The site plan application is seeking approval to locate an 18,000-gallon propane tank for storage and distribution of propane. Approval of this application required a special permit from the town board, which the town board did grant. I have the property owner here, and at this point, I would open it up to comments from the public on this application. And I did receive the affidavit of mailing and posting on the property.
Perfect. All right, is there anyone that would like to come up on this? I think they're leaving. All right.
Hey, Greg, I don't think anybody from the public is going to comment, but did we get comments from the fire marshal in reference to this?
Yes, there was extensive review on this application between the fire marshal's office and the applicant. They did submit a fire safety plan that was reviewed by the fire marshal, and we received comments from the fire district. Both the fire marshal and the fire district were satisfied. So yes, to your question, this was thoroughly reviewed by the fire safety.
Thank you. I don't know if the applicant wants to come up and
Great.
tell us about his plan.
Are they abandoning the fuel oil portion of that piece of property?
No, the fuel operation is going to remain in place. They're just going to add an 18,000-gallon propane tank behind the oil tanks. And again, the existing situation on the property was taken into account during the fire safety analysis. That was one of the fire marshal's concerns.
If you come up to the podium.
Good evening, my name is Sharon LeBlanc, I live in Calverton.
Can you bring that down?
Thank you.
My name is Sharon LeBlanc, I live in Calverton. I'm not familiar with how big that propane tank will be. 18,000 gallons?
Have you
What's the
looked at the,
size?
have you looked at the tanks that are in place at Paraco?
Yes.
Would be two of those.
Okay. And how far is that from the school bus parking lot? Because that is also on Edwards Avenue.
It's more than a mile.
So is it north or south of the parking area for the school
South.
buses?
South.
South.
About a mile.
Okay,
It's right at the railroad track.
okay. Isn't there one there now? It's going to be an additional tank there?
That's fuel oil
That's fuel oil.
tanks.
Oh,
That's why I asked that question. It's fuel oil.
thank you.
All right, anyone else? Anyone on Zoom?
No one on Zoom.
Okay.
Greg, do you know the physical size of those tanks, like 10 feet by 20 feet, or?
If you give me a second, I can go over to the plans and tell you.
Yeah, just so we can let the public know.
I mean, without a scale handy, I would have to estimate that the tank is probably about 10 by 50,
Okay.
give or take.
All right, thank
Thank
you.
you.
Make a motion that we close the public hearing on Duell Properties. Second?
Vote, please. Bear?
Yes.
Nenaro?
Aye.
Hogan?
Aye.
Dennis Esky?
Aye.
Waspy, yes. All right. Let's move on to Printed Places Major Subdivision. Again with Greg.
All right, thank you. And once again, I did receive the affidavit of mailing and posting for this property. What the board's considering is a 25-lot major subdivision. There is an existing vacant 26.1 acre piece of property located on the north side of Middle Road, approximately 680 feet east of the intersection of Middle Road and Harrison Avenue. Subject property is located within the Residence B40 zoning district. As I stated, it is a 25-lot subdivision, and that includes 3 lots which will be subject to the Long Island Workforce Housing Act. The subdivision would result in a new roadway with 2 cul-de-sacs, a recharge area, and open space areas totaling approximately 3.8 acres along the property's frontage with Middle Road. That will help screen the proposed development from Middle Road. Again, we did receive the affidavit of mailing and posting, so I would open it up to public comment.
All right. Would anyone like to come up on this matter?
How you doing? My name's Thomas Vance. I own 3 acres in front of this property on Middle Road. My only concern is the open space. I looked at the plans for open space A. Is that going to be bulldozed clean, or will it remain wooded? We have a lot of wildlife there, and we're all senior citizens that live there now. We like the wildlife.
Greg's going to answer you.
Thank you. So the board's intent when they, sort of laid out that sketch plan was to keep that area natural. The thought being that the existing vegetation would serve to provide additional screening from Middle Road. So to answer the gentleman's question, that would remain natural.
Thanks.
Very good, thank you. Anybody else? Anybody on Zoom?
Before I forget, I do want to acknowledge written comment that I received on this application. We received a 2-page written letter from Warren F. McKnight, who lives at 824 Middle Road. And those comments were provided to the board, and they will be incorporated into the public hearing record.
One question, Greg. Was there any traffic studies done or anything on the project, or it didn't warrant it?
There was, the board didn't require a traffic impact study. When we look at the SECRA handbook with regards to studying traffic impacts, typically the threshold for a major residential subdivision to be considered something as a significant impact to traffic, I believe the threshold is 97 lots. This subdivision is well below that 97 lot threshold, so the board did not require a traffic impact
Right.
study.
Did anybody look at the traffic on Harrison and Middle Road? Do you feel that it's not going to impact that intersection?
Again, the board didn't require a traffic impact study, just because the threshold, the proposed development was so far below any established threshold to be considered. So no, that was not really looked at by the board.
Thank you. Heather, nobody on Zoom?
No one has their hand raised.
Okay.
All right, I'll close the public hearing for Printed Places Major Subdivision. So moved. Second.
Vote please. Bear?
Yes.
Nenaro?
Aye.
Hogan?
Aye.
Nocesky?
Aye.
Woski, yes. All right, let's move on to HK Ventures with Greg Bergman again.
All right, I am going to step out of the spotlight for a minute. I'm going to let the applicant's representative, Keith Brown, present the application.
Good evening, members of the board,
Good evening.
members of the audience. On behalf of the applicant, Keith Brown from law firm of Brown Altman DeLeo 33 LLP, 538 Board Hall Road, Suite 301 West, Melville, New York 11747. I'm here this evening with respect to HK Ventures preliminary site plan application to develop a warehouse facility at the vacant property located at 4285 Middle Country Road in Calverton. With me tonight is our project team, some of whom will be making a brief presentation to the board this evening. In the front row, we have Ms. Jacqueline Peranto, PE of Key Civil Engineering, our project civil engineer. Next to her is Mr. Matthew Seckler, PE of Stonefield Engineering, our traffic safety expert. To Jacqueline's left, your right, Mr. Alex Badalamante, AIA of BLD Architecture, the project architect. And finally, to Alex's left, your right, Scott Johns, representative of the applicant. Just by way of background for the members of the board who were not here when we went through the SECRA process, and members of the public either, the property is located on the south side of Middle Country Road, approximately 525 feet east of the intersection with Fresh Pond Avenue. The property has a total lot area of approximately 30.25 acres and was formerly agricultural land. The property is located near the Enterprise Park at Calverton, more commonly known as EPCAL. To provide some context, the area surrounding property is generally characterized by large commercial lots and retail uses along the south side of Middle Country Road. To the west of the property is the Tractor Supply Company retail store, the Sky Materials site, as well as a former sand mining operation. Further west along Middle Country Road is a steakhouse restaurant, a poultry farm, a bagel store, single-family residences, and the Stony Brook University Incubator at Calverton. To the north are agricultural and commercial land uses. To the east is an active sod farm, residential uses, and industrial uses. Further east is a gas fueling station, farm equipment supplies, Moto 1 Long Island Motorsports Park, and Split Splash Water Park. To the south is a town-owned EPCAL property and a portion of the EPCAL recreational bike path. The property is zoned Industrial C, which allows for a mix of light industrial development and office campuses in the area between Enterprise Park and the terminus of the Long Island Expressway. This project is consistent with the town zoning code. The intended development for this property is in character with the surrounding land uses. This application will redevelop the property into a campus-style warehouse and manufacturing facility located in a federal opportunity zone and zoned Industrial C. It is important to note that Industrial C zoning allows for the requested use of the property as a matter of right. Specifically, the project will develop 8 warehouse buildings ranging in size from 44,100 square feet to 56,672 square feet, with a 1,500 square foot commissary for use by tenants of the complex is also proposed. The project is unique in that it serves a real need for a warehouse distribution and manufacturing space on the North Fork of Eastern Long Island, and the location of this property is an ideal fit. It is also consistent with the economic development goals in the town's current comprehensive plan and will bring construction jobs, approximately 459 permanent jobs, and increase the property's tax revenue to approximately $1.1 to $1.3 million a year. For the record, the application was submitted with the town, hard to believe, back in February 3rd of 2020, some 3 years ago. Since that time, this project has undergone an extensive, nearly 3-year environmental review pursuant to New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, where this board assumed lead agency. The secret process commenced on or about May 21st of 2020 by Planning Board Resolution number 2020-031. And the secret review process included, among other things, the submission of coordinated review of draft environmental impact, a final environmental impact, a draft supplemental environmental impact statement, and a supplemental environmental impact statement. As part of the overall secret review, this board and all the other involved agencies reviewed the overall site plan, landscaping, and traffic reports submitted with the application. The secret process concluded on April 20th of this year by resolution number 2023-032, where this board, as lead agency, adopted a finding statement that concluded that the application would not have a significant negative environmental impact. We also note that the project was reviewed by the Zoning Board of Appeals, who granted a variance relief on June 8th of this year for a building height of 35 feet, where 30 feet is permitted, and the impervious surface area of 60.72%, where 60% is permitted. As will be more fully discussed by our project engineer, Ms. Jacqueline Paranto, this application will develop the vacant parcel of industrial zoned land with commercial industrial complex consisting of a 412,679 square foot of floor area to be divided into individual spaces, along with the 1,500 square foot commissary for use by the tenants of the complex, as well as parking, lighting, landscaping improvements, new potable water connections, an on-site sewage treatment plant, new traffic signal, and access from Middle Country Road, as well as related site improvements. The total building coverage is far below what is permitted under the town code, 31.31%, where a maximum of 40% is allowed. And the project has been designed with enhanced setbacks and significant landscaping. As can be seen from the site plan and landscape plan, generous setbacks, berms, landscaping, buffers, and open space have been incorporated into the design to minimize views from the property, into the property from Middle Country Road and from adjacent parcels. We note the building setbacks will be 124.7 feet from Middle Country Road, where 30 feet is required, 195.2 feet from the rear property line, where 50 feet is required, and 121 feet from the easterly side yard, and 100 feet from the westerly side yard, where 30 feet is required for each side yard. In addition, the front yard will have 2 3-foot berms, and the applicant will be installing landscaping consisting of trees, shrubs, and grasses along Middle Country Road, as you can see in the simulations before the board. The project also provides greater screening and buffers than what is required under the town code, as it includes a 55.4-foot minimum planted area along Middle Country Road where 20 feet is required, a 14.2 minimum buffer along the side yards where 10 feet is required, and a 31.9 minimum buffer at the rear yard where 10 feet is required. As can be seen from the color site rendering and the landscape plan, landscaping and green space will be included along Middle Country Road, along both side yards, along the rear yard, and throughout the property. And just the other day, we dropped off a number of exhibits, all of which this board has seen prior to today. Just very quickly to list them. The first is Exhibit 1, a color site plan prepared by Key Civil dated February 27, 2023. An aerial map prepared by Key Civil dated August 5, 2021. Exhibit 3 are the following drawings by HK Ventures Calverton prepared by BLD Architecture dated August 3rd of 2023. It includes color renderings, floor plans, elevations, and the aforementioned renderings that you see before you, the entry view, the north aerial view, and the south aerial view, as well as resumes for our experts, Ms. Jacqueline Paranto, Mr. Alex Belamonte, as well as Mr. Sekla. With respect to the site access, a full movement access point will be provided along the site's Middle Country Road frontage. The applicant has worked with the New York State DOT and obtained the state's approval to install a traffic signal at the site's access driveway. The site has been designed to separate passenger vehicles from truck activity, which provides for an overall safety and site circulation benefit. A town code compliant 326 off-street parking stalls will be provided, including 16 ADA compliant stalls that will be provided on both sides of the center drive aisle. Loading spaces, 62 total, for both tractor trailers and box trucks will be situated on the east and west sides of the buildings. Loading docks for box trucks will be on the west side of the property for buildings 1, 3, 5, and 7. Loading docks for the east side of the property will serve buildings 2, 4, 6, and 8, will be sized for tractor trailers. To accommodate pedestrians, a continuous 4-foot sidewalk will be situated along Middle Country Road. A 6-foot wide crosswalk will be placed in front of the site access along Middle Country Road. Within the property, sidewalks will be installed along the sides of the buildings facing the center drive aisle, and bike racks will also be provided along the north side of each building within the central drive aisle. The application also includes the construction of an on-site sewage treatment plant, which will be situated in the center of the proposed development along the east side between Building 4 and Building 6. We also note that the project will provide rooftop solar panels that will provide an output of approximately 2.4 megawatts to the community solar program. Electric vehicle charging stations, 2 per building, will also be scattered throughout the site. The buildings will include high-speed garage door and seals to reduce overall energy consumption. With respect to site security, a security gate with a card reader will be installed at the front entrance. Each tenant and associated employee will receive key cards to access the facility during operating hours. Hours of operation will be Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. Certain tenants will be granted key card access for 24-hour, 7-day use if they need it. Closed-circuit television video surveillance will be mounted throughout the property and will run 24 hours a day. And further, fencing will be installed to surround the property. An alarm system and a motion sensing system will also be installed throughout the facility. That concludes our brief overview. With that, we'd like to call our first witness, Ms. Jacqueline Paranto. Thank you all.
One question for
Sure.
you. Is it still going to be a planned development? I know at one point in the beginning it was going to be the first section. Is it all going at the same time?
Yes, that's still the
Phased?
plan. Yep, in phases.
Thank you.
The main building in the front and then the rear building. Great. Anyone else? Thank you.
Good evening, Chairwoman, members of the board. My name is Jacqueline Peranto. I'm principal at Key Civil Engineering. We're located at 664 Blue Point Road, Holtsville, New York. I'm the site civil engineer for the applicant. To not be repetitive, I think Keith hit a lot of the major points in terms of our site plan design. We specifically designed the site in such a way that we're keeping truck traffic separated from regular vehicular traffic. So the trucks are circulating on the outer perimeters of the site, and regular passenger vehicles with parking spaces are located in the center. The central access point is signalized, and the entrance gate into the property is set further back, allowing for a proper queue for a tractor trailer to allow for the gates to open if coming after hours. The east side of the property is situated with the larger tenants, the 10,000 square foot tenants in those buildings, which allow for the tractor trailer and a recessed loading dock. And on the east side, those buildings are 5,000 square foot tenants with overhead doors and box truck parking ability. The buildings 1 through 8 do range between 44,100 square foot. In phase 2, the larger buildings are part of phase 1. 56,627 square foot is the largest. And there is a 1,500 square foot commissary that will not be open to the public, but only serve the patrons and tenants within the property. As indicated, the buildings are set back over 124.7 feet from the roadway. We have large landscape areas in the front with berms and heavily planted with evergreens and deciduous plants to maintain buffering year-round. The on-site stormwater system was designed to handle a 100-year rain event. So it's a 8.77-inch rainfall is what the system is designed for. It's a combination of dry wells as well as a large recharge basin located in the back of the property. The site naturally slopes from the Middle Country Road to the rear of the property, so locating the recharge basin in the back made the most sense. The building floor elevations are stepped as you head towards the rear, so the rear buildings are set at a lower elevation than the ones in the front, keeping with that natural grade and minimizing the amount of earthwork that's needed and trying to balance the site to the best of our abilities. Natural sand, soil properties here are excellent. We have great sand, so the leachability of the soil is very good, which works perfect with the recharge basin and dry well design. The sanitary and kitchen waste for the commissary is sent to the sewage treatment plant. A grease trap would be installed for the kitchen use of the commissary. The sewage treatment plant is going to be designed for 20,000 gallons per day. It's currently under review at Suffolk County Health Department. PW Grosser is handling that design and application. It's currently under review. The total flow proposed for this development is 16,506 gallons per day currently, based on those uses. In addition, water service is going to be provided by Riverhead Water District. There's a 12-inch main in the right-of-way, and through many negotiations, there's final agreement with Riverhead Water District, and we'll be providing an on-site 8-inch water loop. So we'll have 2 tap connections to the 12-inch main, creating a loop service through the property, and then off of that 8-inch, all of the domestic and fire services for each building will be tapped off of that. The loop itself is protected with RPZs and meters at the property line in earth berms to also hide them as best as possible. So they'll be located within those berms with hatches at the top. Site area lighting is provided as well throughout the property. It's all dark sky compliant lighting. They're LED lights. The poles, the lights on the poles are only mounted at 16 feet high. The site also provides for a significant amount of landscaping throughout. Again, larger buffers than mandated on side lot lines, front and rear. Staggered evergreen trees are proposed along sides and rears, as well as shade trees and shrubs throughout the parking lot to just create that breakup of the asphalt as best as possible. There's also an incorporation of pervious pavers within, between those buildings to also break up some of the asphalt and provide more more pervious surfaces.
Okay, I don't mean to interrupt you, I apologize, but this is kind of rehashing everything that everybody already knows. So I'd really like to hear from the public. That's the reason
Sure.
that they're all here.
Sure.
So, again, I apologize for interrupting you, but they've been very patient, so.
There's just one thing I want to mention, we also have ARB.
Hi, Amanda Grams from Riverhead. Can you tell me some of the clients that will be at your establishment? The tenants that you have on board or are pursuing?
Are we going to take all comments first and respond?
Yeah, I think that that's what we should do. We should let everybody come up,
Sure.
and then they can address your questions afterwards. I think that's all right. You're going to have to raise your microphone.
Yeah, no problem. I'll use my educator voice. Good afternoon. My name is Ray Ankrum. I am the superintendent of Riverhead Charter School, located in Calverton. I heard the presentation, wonderful, and I think that it's amazing that jobs are being brought to Riverhead. I'm all for that. But what I didn't hear when all of the businesses were being named, I heard Split Splash, did not hear the Riverhead Charter School, which is located centrally in that body, right? So didn't hear that. For the past 11 years, I consider myself an expert on the traffic in front of 3685 Middle Country Road. I hear a lot of concerns from parents with regards to the traffic that the school brings. And so my concern is that any additional amount of business in that area is going to be a nightmare for folks that are trying to travel between the hours of 7 and 9 and 4 and 6. And so adding this additional traffic with regards to trucks coming in, however that's centered, right, is going to be a nightmare for our school. In addition, I'm also concerned, and I've expressed this concern to the state, about the 55 mile per hour speed limit that's in front of my school. And so to now think that we'll have trucks that are driving at 55 miles per hour, my concern for my students and families should be noted by the board. Thank you for your time.
Got to severely lower the microphone. Claudette Bianco, Bating Hollow. I have a couple of questions. When Mr. Brown made his presentation, he mentioned warehouse distribution centers. Which is it? Because they're two completely different things. Warehouses store items, and distribution centers unload them from trucks and vehicles and send them right back out. So that's a big difference, and I'd like to know which it will be. He also said that the business hours are Monday to Saturday, 8 to 6. But when Ms. Paranto spoke, she mentioned trucks coming after hours. So if it ends at 6, nobody should be coming after 6. And there are 62 parking spaces for trucks and tractor trailers. Is it going to be around-the-clock truck traffic? Because I didn't hear that being mentioned. So I'd like to know about how many trucks daily we're going to have on the roads coming and going. And I do want to know the difference whether it's a warehouse or a distribution center. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Sharon LeBlanc from Calverton again. This gentleman gave a lovely layout of what was in the area, but he neglected to say that there are close to 400 residents within a 1.5 mile location off Fresh Pond Avenue. Currently, there's no light there. There's been multiple accidents. And you're speaking about access driveway, a traffic lighted access driveway, a traffic signal. Where is this going to be? And I commend the gentleman that spoke about the schools. What about the people? We are the beginning of the wine industry. We are farmers. People come from miles, and we have moved to this neighborhood in Calverton, many of us 10, 15, 20 years ago, because the location was pristine, clean, nature, the wine country. And now, as I see it, it was discussed that this is only industrial. There are 400 families right there, a mile and a half away. And having all these trucks 24 hours, we were at the last meeting, and I still don't know where the entrance is going to be. It's not clear. I don't know where that is. And right now it takes sometimes 15 minutes to turn off of Fresh Pond Avenue onto 25. 25 is a state road. It's garbage now. You need front-end alignment every other month. You know, we had our Fresh Pond Avenue paved because it's a town road. Our roads can't take it. And you're going to put all the hard-working farmers out of business because you're going to pollute the area.
Sorry, we're all fighting for the mic. Appreciate the opportunity to speak on this. My name is Crystal Weissmiller. I'm a Timber Park resident. I'm a mom of a son who goes to Riley Avenue. So like Ray had mentioned about school concerns, we mentioned the bus depot being right off of Edwards Avenue, right? So right now, I have a letter here from Riverhead Central School District on our hours of bell times, start times changing. We have transportation issues. We have, traffic incidences which have impeded on our school schedules, kids' buses being delayed, parents getting to work, delayed. Like, this all infringes on our lifestyle. So, I have copies of this letter. I have sent emails to the board, to the IDA, to the planning board on a random spring day, May 20th, I think it was. I sent you videos of I pulling out by Tractor Supply, making a left-hand turn to go to Edwards, sitting in traffic, no pumpkin picking, no apple picking, nothing. Just normal Saturday traffic. Took over 10 minutes to get approximately 1.5 miles. And we're not talking about additional lights. All this, the pretty crosswalks and, the shrubbery, it looks all good on paper. And I don't know when this was all zoned, I really don't. But I don't know how many residents lived in the area either. And I can tell you that this is all dramatically impacting us, a tremendous amount. As it is now, we all face very difficult circumstances getting from point A to point B. We can't reroute our children to school. We can't change our lifestyles because we want to bring in these buildings, these pretty renderings. They look good on paper, but they don't work for the public. And it was mentioned, we're talking about after hours. We don't want to hear truck traffic. We don't want to, we cannot allow this. This doesn't belong here, right by our neighborhoods, by our schools, none of it. It's very difficult to grasp the concept that, we do a lot of this, like, do now, ask for forgiveness later. And we're kind of seeing this all, I can't even believe it's being entertained, but I'd like to know, like, when this was originally zoned, was all this factored in, the school districts, the charter schools, the transportation? There are no shoulders. Forget the fact that Edwards Avenue is a mess at that intersection. We understand that there's maybe foreseeable construction. How is that going to impede on our kids' school schedule, buses? All of this has to be factored in. There's not a lot of parents here to speak on this because we're so preoccupied with our day-to-day lives. we don't get to see this until the aftermath. So this is why I'm here, is to kind of voice this before it happens, because a lot of us can't afford. The Riverhead Central School District is saying, well, you know, we understand that this change of schedule, you know, it may impede on your work conflicts and whatnot, so they're offering before care. We can't afford before care. We can't afford after care. We're going to school and not able to raise our children because we need to go to work. You know, I'm sorry, they're going to school, we're going to work, and we can't depend on, you know, alternatives to try to accommodate these developments. We can't. I'm sorry. And I think that this really strongly does need to be considered. And I beg that you hear me when I say this. You know, I'm sure a lot of you have raised children, and it's very difficult. And this will impede on our lives. So please hear me when I say that. And if you'd like copies of the letter, here you go.
Thank you.
John McAuliffe from Roanoke Landing in Riverhead. I may have missed something when I was traveling, but the last time I remember a discussion of this project, you guys and women had very courageously backed off these project proposal people on the grounds that there needed to be a much more serious evaluation of the impact on traffic and the timing of when the intersection was going to be developed. Now, maybe something's happened that's changed that, or maybe there's just more pressure on you and now it's in front of you. But I think that issue of traffic that's been referred to in the intersection redevelopment, still this project ought to be on the shelf until all of those things are resolved. I think another question I sent, it may not have reached you, but I sent today to your staff person an article that appeared in Newsday about the overbuilding on Long Island of warehouse space, with an estimate that it might be 10% above needs. And I mean, I'm not an expert in this, but I hope that you're seeing articles like this and you consider whether this project actually is needed and beneficial in the larger economy. I think it's also, I mean, I think there needs to be, out of the comprehensive plan, some serious reevaluation of zoning in Riverhead. Because this project, if you look at it, it may be, you can, they say, put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. This project is immense, and it is going to transform that area. It's not the same as what's already there. It should not be there. It certainly shouldn't be right on the roadway. It's the kind of project that ought to be within EPCAL if the town takes control of EPCAL again, which hopefully it will. And then it can lease out or sell properties within EPCAL away from the highway with all kinds of other facilities already built in. The other question I'm going to ask, which you will say is not appropriate to you, is, are these the right people to be investing in Riverhead? I've mentioned this at previous meetings. The principal has been identified with the Russian mafia.
Okay, I'm going to.
I know you're going to rule it out of order, but I'm going to say
We've heard it before.
that I think it is a responsibility of your board to find out who the investors are behind this principal, because one of his roles is to provide channels for Russian money.
All right,
So I think you don't want to talk about it, but who else will talk about it in the town? The last thing I want to say, which you will like even less, there was an excellent article in the Riverhead Local about campaign donations. I remember in the past cycle, there was a serious donation to the Riverhead Republican Party
All right, Mr. McCall,
by
that's
the
it.
principal
This is a
from
public
this
hearing,
company.
you're supposed to be,
It's a public hearing, and part of the question is whether this is an appropriate person to be investing in Riverhead and what might be affecting your decision. Thank you.
Well, hi, my name is Sarah Jones. I live on Fresh Pond Avenue. I really thank you for the opportunity to be here this evening to speak to you about this project. It's really, do we need this? It's really sadly over, it's huge. I'm very sad that these properties were previously agricultural and now they're commercial, but commercial, do we need these? And again, is it a warehouse? Is it a distribution center? These properties are not going to bring jobs if it's a distribution center. You know that, right? This is just going to bring traffic. And I love the way you have the trucks have their own lane until what? Until they get onto Edwards Avenue? All the way there, or are they going to, how do they merge into, I can't get out of my own block. I can't drive the car. You sit there, a couple of songs come on the radio because the traffic is so bad now. How many trucks, I want to know. How many trucks, I want to know. 24 hours, 7 days a week. I just think it's too big, and then what do we do with it when it fails, or when the shopping centers that are now all abandoned? We need distribution robot centers. I object. I'm so sorry to tell you, but it's going to make our life, and also the people who are east of us, all those great farmers that, people come from miles around, come out there. This is, the family's gonna pick apples, right down the block, across the street from me, let's go pick. I can't get there because of the trucks.
anyone else? Sure.
I just wanted to see, I know that there were traffic studies, I believe, that were done. Like the Windy Acres and or is it Windy Acres, right there, right? So like when you have families crossing the road with their kids and their strollers and so on and so forth, these types of things, are they all factored into these traditional studies that they're doing? Right, like so, because we're talking about when you have to stop for a family to cross a road, I mean, we have to think, this is not our industrial area. This is our home. We moved out here to be a part of this, not that. Right? And we want to go do these things with our children, and we want to bring people in to help these small businesses thrive, right? But when you're running tractor trailers down a road like that, that's going to put an end to that. And people aren't going to want to come here. And I know that a lot of, points that are made are, everything seems so questionable. And it almost seems like a bait and switch, and I don't want to, get too into that. But when you're talking about these nice, pretty loops to keep trucks separate from cars, and then they all have to merge together someplace, right? When they come in and out, there's only one entry and exit way. So, and again, there's no shoulders. So when we're talking about just doing work on an intersection at Edwards Avenue, what about the rest of the roadways from point A to point B? So we have no shoulders. So when somebody's trying to make a turn, where you're at the Tractor Supply, you have to be able to go around them. Tractor trailers, there's no room for that. It's right now as it is, it's very problematic. And I think that just all of this needs to be considered from a humane standpoint, from all of the residents. I mean, there's so many people here who don't understand how this could impact their life after the fact, you know, and we don't want to see that happen. So
Right.
I hope that that's all taken into consideration before it's too late.
You know, you brought up some very good points. The one thing, the reason that we're here tonight is because this is zoned industrial. So as a board, we need to take that into consideration. But you've made some very, very valid points this evening, so thank you for coming up.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
Good evening, Steve Cool. I'm a Timber Park resident, right, pretty much across the street from this, maybe a half mile. I've been through many a planning board meeting, many a town board meeting, and it just seems like this town and this board in particular, takes so much flack because there's not a grand plan in place. We have so many projects that come to you guys and are looking for approval and looking to be planned out and then executed. But without a comprehensive plan in place, an updated one, 2020 something, you're gonna, every single warehouse project, every single improvement project that comes down the line is gonna bring flack like this over and over and over. Riverhead needs a brand-new, updated, comprehensive plan for development. Otherwise, you're in for angry audiences every time we meet. That's my only comment. Thank you.
Hi, my name is John Newman. I live in South Jamesport, which is quite a ways from the Calverton area. And when my family moved out here, you know, from Jamesport to the LIE took me approximately 12 minutes. Now, during a normal time of the day, it's a half-hour ride. The traffic around Riverhead Center is abysmal. Whoever planned the traffic flow around there really did a lousy job. And worse than that, whoever made the decisions to allow that kind of traffic flow made a big mistake. And, you know, we elect people here to be members of the town board and supervisor, and they appoint you guys to be planning committee members and zoning boards of appeals members. And sometimes I wonder, like, you know, what your level of management expertise is in deciding these types of issues. And it's very disarming to, you know, people like myself, you know, who aren't involved in addressing those types of things. So, I mean, I'm really upset about the traffic flow from the LIE all the way out to the East End. And so, moving towards Calverton, if you've spent some time at the Crossroads Junction there, that intersection is a death trap. And I don't know, it's so many close calls at that intersection. I can't imagine a lot more truck traffic running through there. It's just insane. And moving away from that comment, just looking at the immensity of this project, and you're talking about running 8-inch mains in there. I'm a retired New York City firefighter. I'm also a volunteer firefighter in Jamesport, and I'm well aware of the capabilities of the Wading River Department and the Fire Department and the Calverton Fire Department. There's no way a fire in this kind of complex could be contained by the level of firefighting resources we have in that area. And the 8-inch main is not going to be enough water supply for a major fire in this complex. And I don't know if the fire marshal had a chop on all of this yet, but I'm sure he'll have some serious concerns about that. And if he doesn't, then maybe he shouldn't be a fire marshal, because this is a disaster. Believe me. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hello, my name is Carl Arbiter. I live in Temple Park. This project is way too big for the area. If you ever been to areas like Yaphank or Hauppauge or Farmingdale, they each have different industrial areas designed for this type of capacity. Especially in Hauppauge, they have their own specific area with these type of buildings. And there's a whole system of networks and roads that actually deal with this. I'm there every month. I know about this, and you can tell by the heights of the buildings. And we're not even talking about the cyclists that use Route 25 every single day just for exercise, recreation. And in some spots, the road is so narrow that you're going to have trouble getting past, especially with trucks now. It's already hard enough as it is. And I'm just wondering, you know, what are you going to do about the cyclists? And you got trucks, cars, and I can see the traffic coming in and out of there. The buildings look nice, but the buildings are going to be way too tall for the area. There's no screening. I mean, in the picture, there's very little trees. And why is there not a cross-access between Harbor Freight and their property? It makes perfect sense to put a light where Fresh Pond and Tractor Supply is with Route 25. It makes no sense to put it in front of their property where it'll be on a slope coming up to Fresh Pond and 25. And at the bottom of the hill, the road always floods next to the gas station down there. Always floods when there's a heavy rain, always backs up. Traffic has to wade through that water. And when you add more trucks in there, it's just going to be a complete nightmare. You might have an accident, your truck might flood out, car might flood out. I mean, there's possibilities in that aspect as well, unless they plan on fixing it. It's, you know, and the state has fixed it at least 3 times, and it's still the same problems come up. So, and from my standpoint, if the property was half the size, maybe, but EBCAL is where it should be. We can design that area to fit a property like this, where it makes most sense. And my question is, with that specific property, will there be AI taking over those jobs too? In the next 3 to 5 years, it's already happening. I mean, you got McDonald's replacing is testing AI French fries, you know, machines and stuff like that. So where are jobs are they going to decrease? Are they going to stay the same? We don't know that. So, and just it just seems out of place. The traffic is a nightmare as it is right now. On my way home from about 6 o'clock, it was light, but you know, Edwards Avenue is a nightmare. It's just, there's nothing really to say about it. And during the day when I have to go to the post office, it takes me, when I sit at Fresh Pond and 25, it can take me between maybe 30 seconds, if we're lucky, to like 6 minutes because of the traffic going each way. And, you know, people got lives, you know, we all do our thing, but the traffic has increased. Ever since I lived here, I've been living in Timber Park for 33 years, going on 34 years now, and my family moved away from New York City to get away from that. I know it's eventually going to come, but this project does not make sense at all. So, and also with my question with the traffic count, what was calculated? Was it trucks? Was it cars? Was it each separated into different, did you get really macro with it, or was it just a basic one count? Because it would be really interesting to know what's trucks, what's cars, what's vans, what's box trucks, and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's pretty important to know. So thank you so much for letting me speak.
Thank you for coming up. Anyone else? Anybody on Zoom?
No one has their hand raised. If anyone on Zoom wants to speak, please raise your hand.
Thank you. Are you coming back up, Mr. Brown?
So before I call Mr. Seckler and Mr. Johns up to rebut some of the comments, I just want to say, just to put this hearing into context so that members of the public are aware. We're here tonight with regard to the site plan public hearing only. We have been through a full SECRA analysis. I have a timeline in front of me. I can count how many times we were before this board, and I'm taking a quick guess, not to delay things, but I believe we were out here at least 6 times in front of this board. We were in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals for the 2 variances. We were also in front of the ARB. We have only required 2 variances, had nothing to do with the setbacks. We are well under the coverage for this property. So with respect to, with respect to, the density and the mass of the project, we are well under what we are allowed under the current town code. With respect to the comprehensive plan, I will tell you that we cannot project out to the future and look into what the comprehensive plan may be at some point. We operate only under the current comprehensive plan, which we comply with all respects. This property has been zoned industrial for at least 2 decades. So with that said, we also were asked by this board not just to do our initial FEIS, we were required to go back and do a supplemental EIS, which we did. And not to mention the fact that the finding statement found that this project would not have a significant environmental impact. So that being said, when it comes to the intersection of Edwards Avenue and Middle Country Road, this board conditioned the approval on that intersection being reconstructed before a building permit could be issued, which we have a right to litigate, and we are, because we felt that that was unreasonable to tie the project to the New York State DOT. But I can tell you, based on our discussions that we've had, it appears the project is going out for bid, and it looks as though the project will be constructed, at least in a timely manner. I can't guarantee that, which is why we did not agree to that condition being applied. That being said, the DOT identified that intersection as one of 3 priority projects for the East End and the North Fork. And as this board is aware, because this board drafted a letter to the DOT to ask them to prioritize this intersection as being the first project, which I agree with. I worked on other projects in this vicinity. I've been well aware of the problems with the intersection of Edwards Avenue. The misalignment, the fact that it needs 2 turning lanes is well documented with many applications that have come before this board and other boards in this town. So with that, I'd like to ask Mr. Seckler to please come up and address some of the comments made by the public. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Matt Seckler. I'm with Stonefield Engineering Design. Our address is 584 Broadway in New York. As part of this project, as was alluded to, we prepared a number of traffic studies and analyses. I just want to emphasize or answer some of the questions that are raised by members of the public. First off, as it relates to our access point, we do have an agreement that's been fully vetted with the Department of Transportation to construct a traffic signal at our driveway. That includes a left turn lane for access into our site, so that anyone waiting to make a left turn would have their own lane to wait in and not block any of the through traffic along Middle Country Road. In addition, we are widening Middle Country Road on our side of the road to provide for a bike lane, and we will be putting sidewalks along our frontage as well. All that is part of the roadway improvements that we're proposing and is in agreement with the Department of Transportation. I know there were questions and concerns about trucks or cars waiting to make left turns into the site. They will have their own lane, and obviously the light will have green arrows that turn on for those vehicles to turn into our site. In terms of existing traffic problems, Mr. Brown previously just mentioned the obviously DOT project at Edwards and Middle Country Road. A lot of the traffic issues along this corridor is related to the fact that you have 2 miles of no traffic signals. Basically, for 2 miles, you have cars that, you basically have a steady stream of cars with little to no gaps in between, especially during rush hour time periods. You got Parker all the way to the west, you got Edwards in the east, and 2 miles of cars, one after another, one after another. The traffic signal that we're proposing will actually help side streets along the way because it'll be creating a stoppage of traffic along Middle Country Road so that vehicles on side streets can take advantage of that to make their own left turns out or right turns out on the neighboring street. So that is an advantage. Secondly, I want to talk about vehicle trip generation and the style of...
Excuse me. Sorry, it's a public meeting. We can't pay attention. Thank you.
And the style of building that we have here. I can't speak to the specific tenants as a traffic engineer. I'm not responsible for that. What I can state is that this building type is very different from what you see as your typical high cube distribution centers. Those high cube distribution centers normally have building depths of 300, 350, 400 feet in depth. You almost see like a large square or large rectangle sized building. These buildings have a 100-foot depth because they're not designed the same way that those large regional scale distribution buildings are. Again, this is a much narrower style building, and half the units have zero ability for tractor trailer loading. It's only box trucks on all the units that are on the left side or the west side of the plan.
So, excuse me, are you saying that this is not a large distribution center, but it is a distribution center?
No, I'm saying it's not your typical high cube distribution center. What you see, in other areas where it could be like a Walmart distribution center, those buildings are 350, 400 feet in depth and have loading docks the entire way for tractor trailers. This has, half these units have no tractor trailer loading, and the units themselves are only 100 foot in depth, so they aren't marketable to those type of tenants, those high cube tenants. And again, I can't speak to specific tenants in them, maybe someone else on the project team can, but just in terms of the style of building from a traffic perspective, half these units cannot receive any deliveries or any outgoing deliveries via a tractor trailer. Half the units can only fit box trucks.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you again, because it was actually asked by one of the residents. They're unclear as to whether or not this is a distribution center or a warehouse, because there is a big difference.
Yeah, and there'll be another witness that'll be speaking to that operation piece. So
thank you.
I don't want to ignore your question, but I'm not the one to answer.
Okay, thank you. Fair enough.
There were questions about the traffic impact study that was prepared, and again, there were a number of them. The trip generation calculations that we do include passenger car trip generation and truck trip generation. That is then, the truck number is further distributed in between tractor trailer and box truck vehicles. So all that has been included within the analysis that had been submitted as part of the SECRA process, and obviously has gone through that whole process, and we reached that conclusion that council mentioned in terms of this not having a negative environmental impact from that standpoint. In terms of where vehicles will be going to and from this area, one, I think the operator will speak to in a second, but we will not have after-hours truck traffic at this site. But again, the operator will speak to that in a few minutes. In terms of where we expect any of the trucks to be going and coming from, obviously a large amount of them will be going to and from the LIE. The shortest route to the LIE here is through Edwards, not heading further east beyond that. It's about 1.1 miles shorter to cut through Edwards to get to the LIE. So that would be the expected path for those larger wheelbase vehicles going to and from this site. So overall, again, I'm hoping I'm answering all the relevant questions that came up, but just to put on the record, we'll have a left turn lane for access into the site, so we will not be backing up the through lane. There will be a bike lane along our frontage. We can't help the entire corridor, but along our frontage, it'll be wide enough to provide for the bike lane along our frontage, along with the sidewalk. The traffic signal will help other side streets nearby because we'll be stopping traffic on Middle Country Road to help create gaps in traffic elsewhere in the 2-mile stretch between the current traffic signals at Parker and at Edwards. And again, the type of distribution facility you'll hear more about, but I could speak to the fact that half of these units have no ability to receive or distribute via tractor trailer.
Could I ask you a question about the internal workings in terms of when a truck pulls into, let's say a tractor trailer in this case, pulls into the site, which direction does it go? Does it go directly?
counterclockwise, and again, tractor trailers can only go to the east buildings, they cannot
Right.
deliver to the west buildings.
Right. But it looks like the loading docks that they have are in the opposite direction.
So they will enter, make a head west, go around the complex, pull up next to the building, and then basically back in on an angle.
That's what I
And then pull
assume.
out.
They have to go all the way around, and
Yeah, their out movement is direct, their in movement goes around the complex.
that's what I thought.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. That is a very appropriate question for site plan review, public hearing. I also just mentioned that all the documents that we've submitted, as well as all of the town's environmental documents, are available on the town website. With that said, I'd like to call Mr. Scott Johns, the applicant's representative. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Scott Johns. I'm the representative for HK. I'm the representative for HK Ventures, 147 Steamboat Road, Great Neck, New York. Steamboat Road, Great Neck, New York. So I'd just like to take a moment to answer some of the questions that were raised. As far as prospective tenants, we currently are not making any commitments to any tenants, nor taking any offers from prospective tenants, given the current phase we are in the permit process. Our expectation is that the facility will be used by small and medium businesses, primarily from the local pool of existing businesses. There's a lack of facilities of this nature for plumbers, carpenters, electricians, pool companies, storage for, wineries or, any other business in this area that requires storage space. The spaces are geared towards smaller tenants. This isn't a facility that I'll be accepting Amazon or Walmart or any other large big box, company. So it's not a distribution center, to answer your question. Distribution may happen if a winery takes a 5,000 square foot space and stores, racks of wine there. They may distribute their product from there. We may have a high-tech manufacturer take space, and they may distribute their product from there. But it's not going to be Amazon sending out, 10,000 packages a day. The need for space in the area is extremely, high, according to our market studies. We've shown that there's little to no space of this nature anywhere within a 10-mile radius. The closest facility that you could compare this to would be in, I believe, Southampton, which is currently at like 98% capacity. This will allow businesses like your plumber or your electrician to, have a facility where they can store their trucks, where they can store their materials, where they can store their equipment. And then as far as the operating hours go, large trucks, tractor trailers aren't expected to be coming into the site after normal business hours. That would be something that you would see, 8 to 6, Monday through Saturday. And I don't see very many tractor trailers on the road on a Saturday. The ability for other tenants to gain 24-hour access is for that plumber to be able to get into his shop so he can pick up a water heater and bring it to your house. It's so that your pool company can come and, pick up new filters, or, a manufacturer who has a time-sensitive, process going on has access to that space and can ensure the completion of what they're working on. If there are any other questions
I actually have one. What is the reason that all 4 buildings have to be built at the same time, when you're not exactly sure?
All 4
how many
buildings are not planned to be built at the same time.
I thought that was what
No, it's a phase project, with the first 4 being in phase 1 and the back 4 in phase 2.
So,
Yes, it'll be 4 buildings in the front in phase 1 and 4
Okay.
buildings in the back in phase 2.
all right, I apologize. I just wanted to make sure that we're not building this whole thing out, and if it doesn't have the drive that, you expect it to have,
No.
we would get stuck with a bunch of empty buildings. I understand the concept of what you're doing, and I know that there is a need for, a little bit, he's not sure all of this.
Sure, and look, should that need not materialize, then the project may not go past phase 2, or phase 1. But, you know, our projections show that this will be occupied something to, 80% or more. So, assuming that's correct, we should see all of phase 1 leased out before we complete it. I mean, if that is the case, then we would, of course, move ahead with phase 2. If that weren't the case, then in all good consciousness, as a, business operation, we would have to rethink it.
Quick question. You mentioned pool supply companies and plumbing companies, renting space there. Will it be labeled like a business is, like if, God forbid, there was an emergency in one of those spaces, that the first responders would know that they're going into a pool company where there's oxidizers and things like that, or plumbing supply where there may be acetylene and things?
I mean, anything that stores that sort of material has to, register it, I believe, with the fire marshal. But there will be a directory.
I mean, actually physically posted, like if you go to Arthur Edwards Pool
Yes, I
Supplies.
mean, I would ask my engine, I would ask Jackie to address that, but from the nods, I would say yes.
I'm just thinking, because everybody out here is volunteers.
No, I
and they,
understand.
Everything that's, okay.
Are there any other questions I can address for the board?
I'd just like to add, in terms of the users of the
Can you
premises.
go into the microphone, please?
Just in terms of the users of premises, Mr. Johns has testified before, also fabricators, right? Think of your cabinet makers, your counter makers, those type of people that, quite honestly, the only place out here, as he alluded to, is in Southampton, is Gabreski Airport. And we've testified before this board that even the garage doors are not up to modern standards. You can't even get a pickup truck inside of Gabreski Airport. So there is a need. We've submitted market studies for this. Scott's phone has been ringing off the hook in terms of prospective tenants. The problem is they can't ink any deals because how long this process has been going on for. So the hope is that we can get through the site plan approval process and start to lease up some of the space. So with that, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Have a great night.
Thank you, you as well. Oh, I'm sorry.
I have questions for the engineer.
Engineer or architect?
Yeah, the engineer. Okay, let's start with the water main. You mentioned looping this around so that you could get a full loop. Where's the water coming from?
I think it's a 10 or 12-inch main in Middle Country Road.
Yes, I know that, but where from where?
The Riverhead Water District.
How is the water getting there?
I'm not sure.
Where is the service? Where is the,
There, the main itself,
no, the actual supply? The wells. The wells.
I'm sorry, we can't hear you.
Thank you for the question, Mr. Bear. We've been in extensive conversation with the Riverhead Water District, and the plan was before the town board just the other day. As you well know, it's well documented, there is a need for a supply tank for this entire area. So the plan is, the town is buying the piece of property to install a major tank. We actually have enough water to supply this piece of property, but in terms of emergency water, we need a supply of water to be provided by the Riverhead Water District. So HK Ventures is being required to pay a very large sum of money to have that process be put in place, and that off-site storage tank will be used not just for HK Ventures, but it's a benefit to the Calverton community because it's going to be used by homeowners, businesses, and other potential projects in the future to assist the Riverhead Water District to carry out its mission.
Has that site been identified yet?
It has been, yes.
Okay. Can I continue?
Sure.
So I assume that since you want to build this in phases, that you're going to loop it first, for the first phase, and then put the rest in for the second phase?
Correct. There actually are phasing plans included in the drawings that we submitted to the planning department, and it talks about how, what the work, like the infrastructure will be, the recharge basin will be done under phase one, but correct, the loop system would be shorter in phase one and then extended in phase two.
And that recharge basin is in the back of the,
Correct.
but you'll have other drainage facilities partially?
Yeah, there's dry wells located in the center and as well for truck loading areas have separate loading.
I see little dots here, but.
Yeah.
Can't make
So
make
it's-
much sense out of it. Okay. The sewage treatment plant, and you're in review with Suffolk County Health Department now?
Correct. A different consultant is handling that design work, but they inform me that they're under review at Suffolk County, and it's located in the center, so obviously that's part of phase one to be constructed.
Okay, because they have quite strict rules on separations.
They do, not recently, a few years back, relaxed some of those regulations for plants up to, I think it's up to 30,000 gallons per day is a minimum 10-foot setback to buildings. So they've gone through, I think they're on their second round of comments, so I don't think there's any big hurdles for them, just technical comments to address.
So the plant, the sewage plant will be built so that it can take the first tenant?
Yes, it's being built to handle the full capacity because
Oh, yeah,
that's what makes.
I understand that,
Right,
but so that it's ready for the first tenant, that's.
Correct.
Okay.
yes,
Okay,
correct.
thank you.
All right. Someone coming up.
Hello, Takwi Turchin, Greater Calverton Civic Association President. Good evening. I was out in the hall, so I might have missed what was just said over the last 10 minutes, but what I'd like to bring to the hearing tonight are two pieces. The traffic component that has been mentioned by the residents is a huge problem. I can tell that you've listened to the different representatives tonight, from individual residents to the superintendent of the charter school to residents who have their children going to Riley Avenue School, and to retirees who have chose to come out here and move from further west. The reconstruction of the intersection at Edwards Avenue and Middle Country Road has been a debacle for many years. It is finally going to be resolved for the traffic we now have. This does not belong on our roadways. Throw it up at EPCAL. Why are you buying this piece of property? It's not even purchased yet, is my final statement. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right.
Zoomers? Any Zoomers?
No one has their hand raised on Zoom.
Sorry, so the occupancy.
Come up to the mic.
You mentioned that it won't be large, like, companies like Amazon and whatnot. Is there something going to be in contractual writing that states that will prevent that from happening? And also one other thing.
No.
was the
No.
bike path. Oh, sorry. Just the bike path, does that go the full extent from Edwards Avenue down?
No, just in front of their property.
So then you're fully exposed to tractor trailer traffic once you leave just in front of the property?
They're on a regular road.
So, with respect to the distribution center, it's not really set up for that. We've testified to that. That's something that we'd have to discuss with council, you know. But in terms of the overall project, it's obvious, at least to me, and that this project has been heavily vetted by both your planning department, its outside consultants, its outside environmental consultants, its outside traffic consultants. And all those documents, as I said, are on the town website. So thank you for your time and your consideration. We look forward to bringing this to a final site plan approval. Thank you.
Thank you.
So we're sitting back there wondering why they needed the zoning variance to put the extra height into the building. It's sort of being described in one way, but they obviously wanted to be able to have some other capacity, and we're curious what the reason was that they had to get a variance.
I'll answer that by saying that I don't believe that's properly before the board, but I'll defer to your counsel.
Can you come up? Sure. Would you just be able to explain why you needed the height?
Sure. As we testified before the zoning board of appeals, it has to do with pallets, and the height is necessary in order to be able to stack the pallets to a certain height. It has to do with the design of the cubes. The experts can go into it in more detail, but that's basically the answer, right? Okay. Right.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right.
I have one more question for Greg, if you don't mind.
For me?
Yeah.
All right, if I could just say one piece. You know, I've sat in a lot of planning board meetings, I hear the residents, I hear the concerns. One of the things we consistently hear is the high cube warehouse, the high cube warehouse. We're constantly referenced to the ITE, the Institute of Traffic Engineers, the manuals. In the ITE definitions of a high cube warehouse is a building that typically has at least 200,000 square feet of gross floor area and has a ceiling height of 24 feet or more. So just the concern of the high cube warehouse, even by the ITE's definition, you know, these buildings are really no more than roughly 50,000 square feet to be divided into individual tenancy spaces. So by the ITE's own definition, these would not fall under the definition of high cube warehouse.
Greg,
But now you get to your question.
one last point. I know it doesn't show on the site plan, but can we at least word it in the resolution if it goes to a vote for a cross easement behind Tractor Supply?
So that is, you know, so this was the public hearing. You know, now the job is to distill down these comments and address them. We will be back before the board to sort of wrap up some of the final components. Within our site plan code, you know, within our Chapter 301 site plan review, there is a requirement for cross-access. It would make perfect sense to have, you know, as the applicants have stated, the purpose is to potentially have contractors, you know, laborers, something like that. It would make perfect sense to have cross-access to Tractor Supply, which is essentially a large hardware store. So that's something that we were going to have a follow-up discussion and sort of fine-tune the points. But yes, I would agree that that would be a condition.
Thank you.
All right. Can I have a motion?
Make a motion to close the public hearing for HK Ventures. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please. Bear?
Yes.
Nenaro?
Aye.
Hogan?
Yeah.
Dennisesky?
Aye.
Woski, yes.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
You too.
Thank you. All right, we're going to move on to our discussion items. Our first one is Verizon Wireless Calverton LS6 with Heather Trojanowski.
I'm just trying to shut down Zoom.
Oh.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Heather Trojanowski, planner for the town of Riverhead. And I do have a representative here from Verizon Wireless. She's been waiting very patiently. You can come on up. And just state your name.
My name is India Carmine, the motto is always 666 Mason Street Road, Garden City.
Thank you. Thank you for your patience this evening. I know it was a long wait. Apologize.
Okay, so before us, we have a site plan application seeking to modify and upgrade an existing public utilities wireless communications facility for Verizon Wireless. The scope of work as proposed in the site plan consists of the removal and replacement of 9 existing antennas, removal of 12 RRHs, and the installation of 9 RRHs. There is no groundwork proposed as part of this application, and all other equipment and antennas will remain. The modifications will be made to an existing communications facility improved with a 115-foot, 9-inch tall monopole, equipment shelters, and pads of multiple wireless carriers, including T-Mobile, Dish Wireless, AT&T, and Verizon. And the property is located at 422 Edwards Avenue in Calverton within the Industrial A zoning use district, more particularly described as Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-117-2-8.2. The proposed action is unlisted pursuant to SECRA, with coordinated review being optional and not recommended. So staff recommends that the board issue a negative declaration, as there are no foreseeable negative environmental impacts from this proposed application. Just a quick rundown of the submitted documents. We received a radio frequency electromagnetic energy compliance report prepared by Andrew Simpson of EBI Consulting and stamped by Michael McGuire, professional engineer, which analyzed the potential RF exposure at the site from the proposed wireless communications equipment and a worst-case modeling for all other carriers. In essence, the report states that the maximum cumulative RF exposure levels from all existing and proposed antennas will be 4.22% of the maximal permissible exposure limits by the FCC. So the site with proposed modifications will continue to be in compliance with the FCC limits. We also received a structural analysis prepared and stamped by Maribel Dettinger, who's a professional engineer, which looked at the structural integrity of the existing tower, and the report indicated that the existing tower and its foundation will have sufficient capacity to carry the proposed loading configuration. We also received an antenna mount certification letter, which was prepared and stamped by Michael S. Trodden, a professional engineer, which assessed the structural adequacy of the existing Verizon antenna mounting assembly and found that the existing assemblies are structurally adequate to support the proposed antennas. The modifications with the following requirement that the center lines of the antenna be installed at 2 feet above the platform walking surface. So I do have this on to issue a negative declaration and grant administrative site plan approval with the condition that prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance, we get a post-construction analysis of the mounting strut and installations submitted by a New York State licensed engineer, and also certifying that the work conforms to the approved plans and the conditions of the mount certification letter.
So all the people with the appropriate licenses have all stamped and signed?
Yes, the site plan was stamped by a design professional as well. And any questions for India?
We've been through this.
You're always very thorough. I know, aren't they able to clump these together? I mean, honestly, I don't know if there's an answer for that, but.
There's no generator here?
There is a generator, but there was no generator work being done. There's a diesel generator that was approved.
Okay.
Okay. Everybody's good? Yep. All that wait for.
I think there's another one.
But wait,
Oh, you're on- you're the next
there's
one?
more.
Okay, all right. So stay right where you are. Let's move on. Let's move on to Verizon Wireless Bating Hollow LS6.
Okay, again, for the record, Heather Chodnowski, planner for the town of Riverhead, and again, we have Mr. Carmine from
Amado Lover.
So this is another site plan application looking to modify and upgrade an existing public utility wireless communications facility. The existing facility, it's a leased area located on the east side of Fresh Pond Avenue, so it's a 1,390 square foot public utility wireless communications facility, already improved with a 122-foot tall monopole. There is an existing 12 by 30 building for Verizon Wireless, and then there are equipment cabinets of multiple carriers. It's located in Calverton within the APZ Agricultural Protection Zoning Use District, and more particularly described as Suffolk County Tax Map Number 600-78-2-1. Once again, this is an unlisted action pursuant to SECRA. no coordinated review is recommended, and we'd like to, I have an approval resolution on, also issuing a negative declaration. So as part of this application, the scope of work as proposed in the site plan consists of the removal of 3 existing antennas, the installation of 6 antennas, the removal of 9 RRHs, and the installation of 6 RRHs. Once again, no groundwork is proposed. All other existing equipment and antennas will remain. We received an RF EME report, again, analyzing the potential RF exposure at this site for the proposed Verizon communications equipment and a worst-case modeling for all other carriers on site. The report stated that the maximum RF exposure levels from all existing and proposed antennas from all carriers on the site will be 8.77% of the maximum permissible exposure limits established by the FCC, and it will continue to be in compliance with all applicable FCC limits as designed. The structural analysis, which was stamped by G. Lance Cook, a professional engineer, analyzed the structural integrity of the existing tower and determined that the tower structure and its foundation will have sufficient capacity to carry the proposed loading configuration, so no modifications are required at this time. Then we received a mount analysis report prepared by APT Engineering and stamped by Michael S. Trodden, professional engineer, which assessed the structural adequacy of the existing Verizon wireless antenna mounting assembly and found that the existing mount assembly is structurally adequate to support the proposed equipment modifications. Once again, no modifications are required at this time. So standard procedure, we do have this on for approval. So unlisted action pursuant to SECRA, issue a negative declaration, grant administrative approval subject to the following condition: prior to the issuance of a certificate of compliance, a post-construction analysis of the mounting strut and installations has to be submitted by a licensed design professional.
All the stamps and signatures?
Yes, sir.
All right. Anybody else?
No.
Okay,
Very well done.
thank you.
Yeah, I'll email you the reports. I'm sorry, talk so fast.
Okay, Greg, let's get going with Calverton, Camelot, 2 Berman subdivision comprehensive development plan.
All right, thank you. So this is just a update on my research and findings. Back in June, I came before the board to sort of put the feelers out there to see how the board would feel about amending the Berman subdivision map. As some of the board members may recall, it was the subdivision that effectuated the subdivision of the plus or minus 500 acres at the core of the old EPCAL facility, which was previously occupied by Grumman. The town board was involved, the planning board was involved. There was what was called the Comprehensive Development Plan Major Subdivision Map of Calverton, Camelot, and Enterprise Park, which was prepared by Cameron Engineering and Associates, LLP, dated October 2004, which was prepared for submittal to the Riverhead Town Board in accordance with the requirements of the Planned Industrial Park Zoning District. What that CDP did was it sort of put together a comprehensive development plan for that industrial core, factoring in the existing industrial development that was there and potential future industrial development. Of specific note that I found when I was going through the comprehensive development plan, one of the specific facts, it says, quote, "Out parcel number 1 was a separate lot created during the 2001 minor subdivision and is not part of the current subdivision application." That was quoted from page 9 of the comprehensive development plan. And number 2, quote, "Since these 2 out parcels are not part of the total property purchased by Calverton Camelot, they are included in the CDP analysis. They are not included in the major subdivision application." That was from pages 9 and 10. What that CDP is referring to, there was a roughly 20.5 acre parcel, which was identified at the time as Suffolk County Tax Map number 600-135-1-7.8. It was the first building when you come into the EPCAL subdivision, the old, I believe, Plant 6, I don't know, Plant 6. It's now Riley Architectural and Old Castle. I basically had to go through and sort of go down in the dungeons downstairs. I lit my torch and really dug back into the history. When I look at the Berman subdivision map, and I included it in the board's packet, the cover sheet of that subdivision application, I highlighted all the Suffolk County tax map numbers that were subject to that subdivision application. As you notice, lot number 7.8 is not there. It is, however, listed in the dimensional regulations of out parcel number 1, and it was sort of given its own reverse engineered specific set of floor area ratio, lot coverage, impervious coverage, which again was part of the comprehensive development plan. And then I did include the second page, a photocopy of the 1998 Suffolk County Tax Map album, which I highlighted this specific parcel. The town is in receipt of a site plan application seeking approval to construct a new building on that Riley architectural site. But what we were dealing with was sort of a discrepancy between what's allowed under the planned industrial park zoning use district and the table of lot restrictions on that Berman subdivision map. I went through, I prepared a...
This is an out parcel, in other words?
So, yes, it was an out parcel. It was, again, in several points in the comprehensive development plan, it was specifically pointed out that it is not part of the subdivision application. Touching on your point, Mr. Bayer, I did find a Riverhead Town Board resolution number 1159, dated December 6, 2005. That's also included in the packets. That authorized the town supervisor at the time to execute all the documents required from the town of Riverhead to effectuate the filing of the subdivision application of M-GBC LLC, which colloquially known as Calvert and Camelot. It's all the same thing. And it listed the following Suffolk County tax map numbers. Suffolk County tax map number 600-135-1-7.10, 7.13, 7.14, 7.16, 7.18, 7.20, 7.22, 7.23, 7.25, 7.26, and 7.27. Again, clearly, that out parcel, lot number 7.8, is not referenced in any of these documents. Essentially, what I have a resolution before the board is to remove out parcel number 1 from the table of lot restrictions. I spoke about this with Dawn, reviewed the resolution with Eileen. I think there's enough substantive information and enough analysis was done where lot number 7.8 should never have been subject to these table of lot restrictions within EPCAL, within the Berman subdivision. So essentially, what this would allow for, to give the board just a rough idea of what we're looking at, under the table of lot restrictions, the total allowable build-out on that lot number 7.8, the Riley site, was 192,016 square feet of floor area. With the underlying PIP zoning district based on the size of the property and the dimensional regulations of the PIP, the maximum build-out would be a total of 268,678 square feet, represents an increase of 76,662 square feet over what would have been permitted by this table of lot restrictions. When you look at the whole 500-acre Calvert and Camelot subdivision, it contemplated 3.229 million square feet of floor area in that entire subdivision. So you look at an additional 76,000, and it's a 2.3% increase over that total subdivision. When you look at the New York State DEC, the Environmental Assessment Workbook, it establishes thresholds for, again, analyzing things like traffic. The threshold for warehousing or general industrial to be considered a significant traffic generator is 180,000 square feet, and for manufacturing it would be 149,000 square feet. So for those two likely uses, an additional 76,000 square feet is well below that threshold, so it didn't really require or warrant any additional traffic study. I did speak with, and I have emails from the Riverhead Sewer District Intendant who runs the Calverton Sewer District. So the Calverton Sewer District right now has a stated and permitted design flow of 100,000 gallons per day. Right now, the current flow is about 20,000 gallons per day. However, the Calverton Sewer District does have a plan to increase its permitted flow to go to 300,000 gallons per day. Based on the allowable build-out, amending these regulations would allow, it's about a 3,000 gallon per day increase, which is well within the existing permitted flow. And if the Calverton Sewer District expands, it will be, again, a drop in the bucket as compared to what's permitted. So at the end of that, after all the research, prepared a resolution to remove specifically this parcel. The rest of the subdivision would still be subject to the table of lot restrictions, but it would remove out parcel number 1 and allow it to be developed under the underlying PIP zoning district.
Why is the 20-acre parcel shown?
What's that?
Why is the 20-acre parcel shown behind it?
Which map are you looking at?
That one.
The 1998, all right, so the 1998 Suffolk County Tax Map album, lot number 7.8, the one I highlighted, that's out parcel number 1.
Right.
Are you which piece are you referencing now?
Right behind it.
7.18?
No.
7.
20 point,
That's actually, I mean, that's the remainder of the property outside. That's the 2,022 acres outside of the core. We're not talking about that. That's the planned development zoning district, so we're not amending that. It's just specifically this one out parcel. It will remove it from the Berman subdivision chart and allow it to be developed under the PIP zone. And again, I mean, this, all right, so we had a, pretty intense public hearing on industrial development. We heard several times, specifically tonight, that EPCAL is where the industrial development goes, so this would allow an existing business to expand, create jobs, and it's in EPCAL.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Greg.
Thank you.
All right, let's move on to public comments on the resolutions. If anyone has anything that they'd like to say on the resolutions, only come on up.
Hello.
Hi.
Is this on? Oh, okay. Okay, my name is Jocelyn Pendleton, 5558 Sound Avenue, Riverhead. And I just had a quick comment on, I believe it's resolution number 3 for the 105 Pier Avenue. So I live or owner-operator of the farm that borders that property, and I just wanted to thank you for designating this as a major rather than a minor subdivision, and all of the provisions that you've put into the resolution. I'm here mainly to ask, if possible, our farm borders this piece on the west side, but also the entire north side of that property. And there's a provision in the resolution for a 20-foot buffer along the west edge of the property, and just didn't know if it would be possible to add that same provision for the north border of the farmland property as well.
I think that border on the backside of the two lots is because the irrigation engine is back there.
Yes.
So I think it was more noise, reducer,
Okay.
where there's really nothing on the other side.
It's a roadway for equipment
Yeah.
right along that north edge. But that was all. I just wanted to see if you'd consider that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Just gonna, somebody read a resolution, or make a motion for a resolution?
You gonna move on to the resolutions?
Don't all move it at once.
I'll move
Can
resolution.
somebody make a motion to?
I'll move resolution 2023-066 for Verizon Wireless, Calverton S6. So moved.
second.
Vote please. Bear?
Yes.
Nenaro?
Aye.
Hogan? Nysesky?
Aye.
Woski, yes.
I'll move resolution 67, which classifies pursuant to SEQA and issues a negative deck and grants administrative approval for Verizon Wireless.
Second the motion?
Vote please. Bear?
Yes.
Nenaro?
Aye.
Hogan? Nysesky?
Aye.
Woski, yes.
Discussion on 68. Was that amended? Do we have to approve that as amended?
Well, I mean, that would be at the discretion if the board wants to include that condition.
The applicant and his counsel are not present at this meeting.
No, I thought,
he meant from earlier in the
yeah, from earlier. Wasn't there an amendment or something?
So the draft that is on the website that was, provided to you, that is what
The
it
final?
would be, yes.
Okay, I just wanted to
Correct.
make sure there's no amendment. Okay, thank you. I'll move resolution number 68, 105 Pier Avenue subdivision, granting approval for the subdivision. So moved.
Second?
Vote please. Bear?
Yes.
Nenaro?
Aye.
Hogan.
Aye.
Nocesky. Woski, yes.
Okay, resolution number 69, Carrollton Camelot 2, table of lot restrictions. Resolution to clarify the action as unlisted, assume lead agency, and issue a negative declaration pursuant to SECR for the planning board to amend.
Second?
Vote, please. Bear.
Yes.
Nenaro.
Aye.
Hogan.
Aye.
Nocesky.
Aye.
Woski, yes.
I'll move resolution, excuse me, 2023-070 for 836 East Main Street, granting a one-year extension of final site plan approval. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please. Bear.
Yes.
Nenaro.
Aye.
Hogan.
Aye.
Nocesky.
Aye.
Woski, yes. All right. Let's move on to public comments on all matters.
Good evening. Amanda Grams, Riverhead. My comments tonight are on the topic of the Cider House's recent resolution number 2023-046. I've made copies for the planning board. They're the resolution and what's currently on Cider House's website. I want to express my deep disappointment over your vote and explanation. You voted no to Baiting Hollow Vineyards application, which was properly filed, and we, the public, applauded you on that. You did the right thing, keeping the historical corridor, Sound Avenue, the last of its kind on Long Island, the jewel it deserves to be treated as. But in the case of Cider House, it baffles me why you went against the very covenants that are in place to do the very necessary preserving and ensuring Riverhead in keeping Sound Avenue our most valuable resource for all of Long Island to enjoy. So now I have to take the time out of my life, fishing, beach time, crafting, to follow this egregious man and his acts, Mr. King. I refer to the first page of the packet. While you're on the Cider House website, under the heading of catering, there's a bullet point. A great place for events such as weddings, showers, large parties, etc. And you can see on the top, it was dated 7/31. The next page shows the two pictures in reference to that room that you can have large parties in. I'm sure if you went in there and you requested information about large parties, you would have it at the ready as well. So now let's talk about that room. In the resolution before you, if you go to the end of page 5, up to top 6, it states, and I'll read it so the public can hear it as well. Applicant shall remove the overhead sliding barn doors and the garage door to the northern wall of the expanded tasting room and close this portion of wall to its previous state or other similar solid wall or sealed double-paned glazing to minimize the negative impacts surrounding use and on Sound Avenue Historic Corridor. Now, I know you were very smart to put that in. So, I've done my part. I brought this forth, these two offenses, to also code enforcement, and I've submitted them with the packet and a letter to investigate, fine, and put back those walls and close them up. Now I ask you, Board and Madam Chair, to do your part. Will you go to the Cider House, as you did in Baiting Hollows, and see firsthand how the wall is not in accordance with the signed resolution, and that the website should be cleared of any advertising for weddings, large events, etc. You represent the Riverhead taxpayer in all the planning and preserving here. We entrust you. You put forth your good efforts to comply with what is here now, what can be enhanced, and what should be preserved. It's the last of its kind. It's been here for 150 years. Please, Planning Board and Madam Chair, please go to the Cider House and see for your own eyes how this catch me if you can guy has no regard to your resolution or complying with it. I implore you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else? No?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All of-
Meeting minutes.
No
We
minutes.
don't have
There's
minutes.
no minutes?
Nope, we're going to have them next. Just got them today.
Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming.